hit it?
Yeah. Hi, you're listening to the Green Bean Podcast with Adrian Green and
Maddie Cupcakes.
And our guest for today is
I'm Mark Richardson.
The voice of the Coahoma Bulldogs and now the Howard College Hawks softball team and basketball.
Yeah.
Man, you're kidding around.
I do a little bit. Let's be careful how we say that.
I don't think anyone would ever believe something that tarnishes the name of Mark Richardson.
Well, I would hope not. I'd like to think that it's good.
Well, for anyone who doesn't know, again, Mark is the voice of the local sports teams here in Howard County. So calls for the Hawks, calls for the Coahoma Bulldogs and Bulldogettes, and
Big Spring Steers.
Big Spring Steers.
Periodically for Force In. Borden County a couple of times. Westbrook.
Yep. Yep.
Garden City.
Go Buffaloes.
Yeah.
Sure. I was in Force In last night. Dropped off my broadcast partner. Just kicked him off on Highway 87. Said we're close enough. You can walk home.
You're close enough.
Yeah.
Oh man. So, Mark, you have been in radio for a minute. You and I have been working together at K-Best for years now. I started at K-Best.
Trust me, it feels like more than you're going to say.
I started in 2016, and then I went full-time in 2017. And you've been there pretty much the whole time.
Yeah, I started in 2016 as well. So December 5th, not 2016, not that I'm keeping track or counting. But
But you had radio experience before that. You had worked at K-Best as a teenager, right?
Yeah, my junior and senior year in high school, which was 88 and 89, I was a part-time weekend DJ for KBST AM back when it was only AM 1490.
And how did you like it back then?
Well, as a high school kid, man, I don't know that there's a cooler job. The music was horrible. I mean, to say it was adult contemporary is a bold-faced lie. It was geriatric at its best. So it was really, really old music, but I got to go in. I started off on the graveyard shift, so I was working midnight to 6, and really my job was to do was play Casey Kasem's, I think it was, Solid Gold Saturday Night.
Oh.
And it meant every 20 minutes actually flipping over the album, the LP. We had 2 turntables, and so segment 1 was on one side of an LP, segment 2 was on one side of another LP. So once 1 was done, you would start number 2 up after you'd give the weather and the time, and then you would flip that first record back over, and that's how it went all night.
Did you ever fall asleep?
Many times. Many times. I remember, I hope he'll never hear this, but the program director at the time was J.J. Capasso, and on a couple different occasions he had to wake me up. So yeah, it was tough.
So while you were working at K-Best as a teenager, were there any interesting stories that you have experienced?
I won't name names on this one, but I do remember one night I went into the newsroom and I got the scanner, which by the way can become highly addictive. And so I brought the scanner into the studio, and it was a 7-Eleven at the time. Now it's a DK, I think, right down there at Oaks and 3rd. Whatever it is, there was a guy there that had gone in and robbed the store and was attempting what we call suicide by cop. So he as it turns out later, he had a BB gun. But he was trying to provoke the police into shooting him. So I called our news director at the time. Again, I won't name names. And I said, hey, I feel like you need to know this. She was highly annoyed that I called her in the middle of the night. I've let out part of it by saying she, but and so she was like, okay, tell me everything you know. And I told her, and I listened to the scanner for a little bit, and I told her, and so she said, well, put me on. And this is my first experience with radio outside of just being a part-time DJ. She said, well, I'm so-and-so and I'm live at 7-Eleven right now, and here's what's in front of me. I was like, wait a minute. So that's why we're glad to have somebody like Adrian, because that would never happen with the way we do things now.
So was that night you learned about the magic of radio?
That's the night I learned about theater of the mind.
There you go.
That's exactly what it was. So that was an interesting night, yeah. I do remember going with David Wrinkle and covering some Little League All-Star games. That was my introduction to sports broadcasting. And it was, man, that was a blast. I really enjoyed that. And then eventually I got to get my own afternoon show, which, on Sundays meant playing the Cowboys game. which meant 3 hours of doing nothing,
Which
but
is-
sitting there listening to the Cowboys. So.
I mean, twist your arm, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
There's worse things.
Oh, no, is there? No,
I mean-
it was really great. No, I enjoyed it. It was a whole lot of fun, and you'd send out special messages, and I would have buddies that would come up there. There was a good group of us that worked there together, and we would go into what's now we call Production A, and there were turntables in there too, and we would start making our own mixes. One of the things we tried to do was take two different versions of La Bamba and drag our finger on one record because one version is much faster than the other. Richie Valens and was it Los Lonely Boys? Is that who it was? And we would try and match it up, and so we could produce one that sounded like it was like a whole choir or whatever singing.
Wow.
We failed miserably, but we had a great time. And we did play records backwards and figured out how to record it and stuff like that. And yeah, another one, Bites the Dust, does say everything you've ever heard it said that if you play it backwards, so it's pretty cool.
I need to play that backwards.
Yeah.
For many people out here, and everything, when they ask me personally about who you are and everything, I'm like, more than that guy over there, I tell them that guy over there, he bleeds more for radio than anybody else in this town does, because I really do think you put your whole heart into anything I've ever seen you do. Heard about what you do.
There's no way we can talk for an hour without talking about my father. He's going to come up, I would assume, multiple times. But one of the things he told me was, he said, find what you're passionate about and put everything you have into it. And so I try that. I try that with I appreciate that, but it shows with you too, Adrian. I mean, you're of that same mold. You're just 100%. You do everything at the best of your ability, as long and as hard as you can till you hit a wall and you crash for a day, and you try to recover, and then you get back at it and you do it again.
Well, thanks, buddy. I mean, everything right back at you. I think you actually just crawl through the rubble and the wall, because I have not seen you stop. I mean, you've been just this season alone for sportscasting, you've been doing like 4 days a week on basketball games, and still turn around and do a morning show
Yeah,
at 6
brother.
a.m. Before 6 a.m.
It's been challenging. This is the first year I've ever attempted to do high school, which is Big Spring, and Howard College. So that's 4 nights a week, 2 games a night. And then get up and do the morning show. I got to tell you, you have no idea how many times I thought, I'm just going to let Adrian cover that morning show, and I thought, well, Adrian's never on time for anything, so if I do that,
right.
The morning show's going to start late.
It'll be a mid-afternoon show.
Yeah, and that's already filled, so.
Yeah, Leah's already got that.
Yeah. Well, between K-Ray and Leah, I mean, you could take the day off too, I guess.
Yeah, I guess I could try. So one of the things that I've seen at KBS is you've gotten the chance to really cut your teeth. You're not a news person, but you've got a chance to cut your teeth on some breaking stories. The first one that I remember where I was like, whoa, was with the old news director that was there before me. And
I know where we're going.
it was a scene that happened right behind Big Spring High School. Can you tell us about that?
I would love to. So we had a former news director, and he came up to the front. Now, he listened to the scanner from the minute he walked into the building to the minute he left, all right? And so he comes up and he goes, there's a slow speed pursuit. And that's what he said, a slow speed pursuit, and it's about to go right in front of the office. Let's go. I thought, now this sounds like my kind of thing.
And how long were you on the job at this point? Because you were...
No, not long at all. I would have to go back and check, but I had not been there very long
And you were
at
the
all.
operations manager at this time.
Yes, I was hired as the operations manager. So we hopped in the Jeep, and sure enough, I mean, by the time we got into the Jeep, there goes, the only way you could describe it was a slow speed pursuit.
Was it like an O.J. Simpson white
Yes.
Bronco pursuit?
Yeah, well, it was an older pickup, and it goes by at maybe 10 miles per hour.
What?
I mean, I'm not kidding. It was
What?
a slow speed pursuit, and it is followed by a police car, highway patrol, sheriff's deputy, police car. I mean, any kind of law enforcement you could possibly have. It's just like, to me, it looked like a parade. Okay?
This guy is going to be legendary,
Right.
whoever the man is.
Well, not necessarily, but it goes right past us, and so we just get in line. You know, we wait for all these law enforcement vehicles to go by. We follow it up, and we're going south at this point on Johnson Street. So we get up to 10th Street, right there by, I still call it Runnels Junior High. It's a Life Church and Runnels Academy now. And we slowly turn left, go up the hill. Now, the one thing that made it a pursuit, that made it cool, is we didn't stop at any stop signs. Okay.
Oh.
To me, I'm thinking, this is cool. We're following a police car, so we're good.
Mm-hmm.
So this pickup pulls up down near where the ATC is. And about that point, all the police officers stop and just kind of start forming this wall. So we pull into the parking lot behind the old PE gym, which is where the buses used to pick up. I don't know if they still do or not, right there. And so we're sitting there, and we don't know what's going on at all. We have no idea what's happened for like the last 20 minutes in Big Spring. All right. And then all of a sudden, boom, 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 boom. You know, I mean, and I don't know if my sound effects are good or not, but we realized quickly, this is a massive amount of gunfire that is going on.
Oh no.
So this guy has jumped out of his pickup, and he's got an AR, and I know better than call it an assault rifle. It's an AR, and he is firing as rapidly as he can at the police officers. Now, a couple of police officers right next to us, I mean, not 20, maybe 20 feet from us, get out of their police car and get around behind him. About that point, his windshield explodes. Now later we take a picture of the headrest of the driver's seat, and there's a bullet hole right through the headrest. Now immediately to the other side of that car, that's where the psh comes in. He shot out the radiator on this. So the police are very good about not returning fire. They do return some. They hit them. And I think to myself, the funny thing is, I'm with this previous news director, and all I hear him say is, "Are you recording this?" And that's when I realized he's literally underneath the steering wheel, down on the floorboard of the Jeep. I mean, he's completely under that. And then I said, "Yes, I am." And then I realized I'm in the floorboard of the passenger seat, and I've only seen a little bit out of the driver's window. And I'm holding my phone up above my head, recording this. And then for some very, very stupid reason, look, at what we did that day was not smart. For some stupid reason, I went ahead and sat up and watched. And I watched this guy get shot. And he goes to the ground. He laid there for a while, and the realization hit me that I've just seen a man die. Well, we watch him for a long time. Of course, the police I can't say enough about law enforcement, the way they handled it. And then he rolls over a couple times underneath his truck. Okay, so he's not dead. I'm a little bit relieved, all right? So he lays there for a while. At some point, some of the police officers start working their way forward, and he comes back out from out of the truck and starts firing again. He actually gets back up on his feet, if I recall correctly. And so they have to return fire again, and I see him get hit. But I'm going to tell you, I saw the most heroic thing, and I wish I knew her name, but I remember her getting recognized with the highest honor that can be rewarded. I think she was a highway patrolman, wasn't she? She takes a shotgun, and she's had enough. And she just starts walking towards that truck, and she's shooting way too far for a shotgun. Okay, it's too far in the range. And she's just pumping, boom, pump, boom, pump. She puts 4 slugs, one into each appendage of this guy. I think he's got a slug in both arms and both legs. He turns out he got shot 8 times. He survived. Thank God for this. So we're there the whole time. I'm shaking now. I was a nervous wreck the whole time. They did finally get up there. They secured him. They got his rifle out of the way. Everybody, Chad Williams, Stan Parker, all the law enforcement, everybody was there. And it was amazing how calm, cool, and collected our police, or not just police. When I say police, I'm talking about all law enforcement, okay? How calm and cool and collected they were. Like, they literally train for this every day. And there's no way you can train for this in reality. It was amazing to me. And then Stan Parker going out of it. This is when I learned how great a relationship we have with local, not just law enforcement, EMS, emergency services, all that. Because Stan Parker was giving us all the information that we needed to get to the community to keep them safe.
Right.
You know, he wasn't giving us information he shouldn't give us, but he was giving us information that kept people from showing up, rubbernecking, whatever you want to call it. And so was Chad Williams. And that's the first time I ever saw a news report, and it was Ace and Melinda and I, we all got together and talked about how the story was going to be written and all this stuff. And yeah, I mean, brand new on the job, and that was my first major news event to cover.
Yeah, and so I was just kind of hanging around the station. I wasn't full-time, but I was there. I think I would come in the morning show.
Yeah,
Just to
you were
hang out
helping
for a
me with
little
the
bit.
morning show, that's right.
And the next morning after that, you were kind of giving us the behind the scenes of what you had seen. And so we talked about that, and we talked about, you know, how well you felt the law enforcement on the scene had handled that. And then everybody was ended up receiving a challenge coin
Yes.
from the PD, and that was very special.
Yeah, for the police department to come over to us and give us challenge coins for our coverage for something that a lot of other media sources would have made Hollywood, they would have glamorized it and all that stuff, really made me realize, okay, there's a right way and a wrong way to do news. And what I just witnessed is we do news the right way.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like that's a one of the good things that I've learned being at KBUS is, you know, the bad news is everywhere, you know, that you don't have to look too hard to find that, but it's the good news that we really strive to push out there to people and try to highlight the good things. Because there's not enough of that.
There's not. How many times have we heard in our building, out of our mouths and others' mouths, the bad news will always find you. You have to go find the good news.
Yeah.
And so that's the thing I'm proudest about you doing, to turn this over onto you, is you spend so much time researching things and putting positive angles on things and finding the good news and the feel-good stories. That people listen to us because they feel better at the end of a news segment, rather than when you turn on TV sometimes and at the end of it you feel like, I'm never leaving my house again.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
I mean, just, you know, the shows on KBest, I know from Leah's show and being there for y'all guys' show and filling in a little bit here and there. You know, downright to like the TSN stuff, to the, you know, to the trivia type stuff and the did you knows and stuff like that. Y'all guys really pay attention to what goes into your stuff. I mean, you guys read through everything and you're like, not this, not
Right.
this, not this.
Well, a lot of people don't realize that
Can't say this.
we use a couple different things that we call show prep, and a lot of people don't realize if we were just to go in and read that verbatim without any preparation ahead of time, we would say things that would get us in trouble.
Like Anchorman.
Yeah.
Just reading the teleprompter.
Yeah, sometimes there are little additional comments that if you get ahead of yourself and you go and read, you realize, oh, I've just taken this from a family show to something that'll be on Showtime, you know, so. Yeah, you're right, and that's why we get there so early, is so we can prepare and get everything put together and put on what I consider to be a really professional show.
Real quick,
Come on,
real briefly, can we touch on some of the other accomplishments that you've had?
Hey, this is your show.
I know you did. You were still very active with Boy Scouts.
Very.
Rodeo board.
Yes, sir.
What else? What else do I got?
What else do we have? We have Chamber of Commerce. We have the Salvation Army.
Yeah.
I'm a city councilman out here in Coahoma. I have a real disease that I inherited from my father, and that's called Noaholicism. I just made that up.
Noaholicism.
I have not learned how to say no.
Yep.
And we can spend as much time about that as you want or whatever, but that is, it's probably my biggest downfall, but it's also truly what makes me who I am, I believe.
And I'm pretty sure your co-host has the same disease.
Yeah,
Like,
we look at each other frequently and go, what did we just do? More frequently, though, she looks at me and goes, you just committed me for something else.
Oh my goodness.
I do that a lot.
Yeah. I remember that was one of the first fights that we had. It was like,
And don't think we haven't had some good ones.
don't think we haven't had some good ones.
He would say something like, "Oh yeah, Adrian and I will be right there, and we'll do this." And, you know, "Oh yeah, don't worry, we'll be there." I just looked at him like, are you serious? Like, do you know how much, do you remember what time our day starts?
And you know, it goes downhill. You know, I'm learning that from Adrian right now, and so I feel that with both of you, and I mean it's the tenacity and that you guys keep pushing through that makes both of you very great at what you do. So,
Wow. You pay him for that?
No, I don't.
Wow.
I mean, no, I just wanted to get into some of your other, you know,
I would love to.
You do,
stuff.
you do a lot, but I just want to go back on our fights real quick.
Oh, I love our fights.
So the biggest fight, you can correct me if I'm wrong.
Oh, I will.
But one of our biggest fights that we had was because there was a parade of lowriders and cholos that were going around the station. They were parking in the parking lot. Because, so there was like I don't know, some kind of car club or something.
Well, a guy across the street had passed away.
And he was like the president of this,
Something like that.
of this
Right,
club.
right.
And yeah, and so Mark was just getting upset, and he's like, people are parking out here, and you know, I'm trying to tell them, hey, you know, we need this space open for customers to be able to come in, but he's like,
She's already putting a spin on this that is not correct.
okay, you tell it. You tell me.
Okay, the bottom line, Matt, is really all I wanted was them to leave us 2 parking spaces. Because we had to have customers that when they came in, they could park there. You know, if we needed to move one of our vehicles, that's all I needed. You know, and she makes it sound like I hated the family,
I didn't say
that I
you
hate
hated
the
the
car
family.
club
I didn't
and all
say you
that good
hated
stuff.
the car club.
But-
Secret time, Mark hates lowriders. You heard
No,
that
no.
on Green Bean Podcast.
That's so not true. I actually have one parked in my carport. That's because it's on 4 flat tires, though. But you know, it's just that day was everybody was on edge. We also had another staff member that I was trying to rein in, if you recall, that wound up going across the street and confronting some of the people over there, and was like, "That's not the way we handle it." So anyhow, tensions did kind of flare up a little bit. Ultimately, though, I did go out. I talked to those folks, and we smoothed things over. But Adrian was very upset with me. She was very upset with me for being so impatient.
Okay, well, okay, so he's like, you know, he's upset and he's getting, you know, just madder and madder. It's just getting puppier and puppier. And then I'm just like, this is a fascinating news story.
Right?
I'm like, how often does this happen? I mean, like, who was this guy? Apparently he was somebody important to have all this, all
the
this
cars.
attention.
Yeah, and I had no problems with that. But part of the problem was the stereos that were playing out front were so loud
Yeah.
that it was drowning out in the studio during our live show.
Yeah,
And
we do that.
that was really originally my biggest issue about it.
I don't exactly remember what it was that was said, but I remember saying, well, I feel like we were not communicating well about what exactly
Yes.
happened. And you said, it happened like this. And I said, well, did you even give him a chance? And the argumentative Adrian. And then all I remember is Mark stomping into his office and slamming his door.
I did slam the door.
And it was the first time that ever happened. And I was like, well, I'm going to run across the street and go get a news story. I'll be right back.
I believe I've only slammed that door twice. But now, can we jump ahead a little bit, because talking about our arguments, I was really irritated with Adrian one day on the air, and it showed. People knew it. They were texting me. They could tell we were mad at each other. And here's what I told Adrian during the break. I said, "You don't pick a side. You go against me, and you argue things you don't even believe in or agree with. You just have to argue. I do not, blah, blah." And it turned into a knockout, drag down fight. Yeah, minus the country twang right there. Yeah. So move forward about a year after that. So this happened probably a year, at least a year, probably 2 years ago. Adrian, I turned off the microphone. I just looked at her. I was mad. I didn't say a word. And she goes, "You know what?" And she drops her head when she does this, and she gets quiet. She goes, "You know what?" I said, "What's that, Adrian?" "You're right." I said, "What do you mean?" She said, "I do just argue to argue. I was just arguing something that I don't believe."
You've gotten her to say sorry?
Yeah, one time.
Once.
That was it. Well, speaking of sorry, I think that's a good place for us to take a
Yeah,
break.
we
And-
need to take a break. Can we do some shout outs real quick?
Yeah, of course.
Let's do Amp Nutrition.
Yeah, she's
Oh,
one
no.
of our Galapalooza sponsors.
Yeah.
So thank you to them. If you have you need some kick of energy in the morning, you can go by and get some of their tasty teas or coffees.
Or my favorite, the Snickers shake.
Yep, real good stuff. Also, shout out to Folsom Law Firm and to Cisneros Law Firm and
What?
to Big Spring Abstract and Title Company.
What a great idea to get attorneys on your side.
Yeah.
That was a smart move, guys.
And Splurge Boutique.
And Splurge Boutique, our other sponsors, Splurge Boutique. So Valentine's Day is around the corner, so that's a great place to pick up your gifts. Tita's Mexican Kitchen, a great place for
Take that date.
breakfast date,
Breakfast
lunch date.
date, lunch date. What?
Also, shout out to Just for Him Men's Haircuts, because if you need to get a quick haircut, that's a good place to get it done at.
Tis the occasion.
Tis the occasion. And they also have guests out here in Coahoma, so,
Yeah.
and Business Solutions. So, you know, if you have things that need to get printed, sent, faxed, or whatever,
Business cards.
they're right
flyers.
up your alley. And you know, shout out to W's Kitchen and Catering in Midland
Boom.
for being one of our
Podcast
sponsors
spots.
for this place, and Yo Mama's,
Yeah, Yo
the
Mama's.
OG sponsor.
Day one right there, I think.
Absolutely.
So,
And so that's going to do it for this segment of the podcast, and we'll be back with more. You're listening to the Green Bean Podcast with Adrian and Matt.